And Mark, are you online yet?
The food was pretty good, but Dan's, my husband said he still felt hungry.
How long have we been doing this?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Ben gave you a thumbs up. Mark's
Okay.
online.
All right, thank you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's 3 o'clock. We'll get started with our work session and review for Thursday. We have roll call, Ms. Adams, invocations by Father Greg. Pledge of Allegiance, Councilman Myers, you got that? Thank you,
Yes.
sir. Acceptance of agenda, Mark Rodriguez, who's online. Good afternoon, sir. He's on. We have awards and presentations. We have 2 awards, well, 1 award, bicycles, bronze bicycle friendly city status. And we have our city manager report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just a few items, and then I'll probably have a few more for Thursday. But the invitation for bids for Fire Station 2 parking lot expansion, those bids are due March 6th. For the PD evidence parking lot construction, those bids are due March 20th. And then Henry Jones Park Phase 1 construction, those bids are also due on the 6th. We have invitation for bids out for our community development block grant funded Ramada and slab and sidewalks for the Catholic Community Services project, and that's pending contract, and hopefully I'll have that for you Thursday. If you've been out at Buffalo Soldier Trail, you see the shared use path under construction. The KNG is doing that, and we're looking at May for completion there. And then, of course, Garden Avenue is still going on and should be substantially completed by the end of March. So we'll look forward to that reopening as well. And then we have a CCOM JPA board strategic planning meeting, and that'll be Thursday. It'll be at PD. And then some good news, ADOT had rejected our application for the multi-use path from 7th to Coronado along the bypass. Matt and staff won the appeal to ADOT, and we'll be able to proceed with that project. So very close to having the loop around the city completed once we get that. So well done on their part. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments for our city manager? Yes, sir.
Just want to thank
Yes, ma'am.
Matt and his team for appealing that initial decision and getting us the funding for the multi-use path.
All right, we proceed on. We have item number 2. Any questions, discussion points on the consent agenda? And we go to our public hearings. Resolution 2026-011, staff report, Mr. Fisher.
All right. Thank you, Mayor McCaw, members of council. Today's proposal is a resolution item. A request to update the Sierra Vista Development Code with regard to permitting of mobile medical units, also known as extended duration mobile or modular medical facilities. This is a public initiated amendment, not staff initiated. Our applicant today is Mr. Kendall Thiessen of CDL Nuclear Technologies in association with Pima Heart and Vascular down on 942 East Fry Boulevard. He will be here to present on Thursday. Before going into too much depth, please note that this is not a review for a specific site proposal. This resolution item is primarily to facilitate a permitting pathway for those seeking to apply for longer term, as in greater duration than 90 days, mobile medical unit placement on an accessory to existing medical offices and hospitals. As currently described within our development code under the temporary use section, temporary uses can be permitted for up to 90 days in a given year. Since 2020, staff has processed and approved 3 mobile medical unit applications, 2 from the applicant for 90 days, and 1 from another applicant for Canyon Vista Medical Center for 60 days. All 3 of these units were CT PET scan capable. The applicant argues that this 90-day cap is well suited for short-term events and promotions, but does not fit multi-year physician-ordered medical services that function on an ongoing part of patient care. In the applicant's case, they are working with Pima Heart and Vascular to provide advanced cardiac CT PET scan imaging locally, and to facilitate this, the practice must rely on a specialized mobile imaging unit that is designed and financed for multi-year operations, with permanent quality utility connections and integration into the daily clinical workflow. Mr. Thiessen states that continuing to treat this use as a short-term event creates repeated administrative work for the city and uncertainty for patients and providers. Staff finds that the applicant establishes a legitimate public health benefit, including improved access to advanced cardiac imaging and reduced out-of-area travel. This aligns with recognized self-sufficiency and economic diversity goals set within the VISTA 2030 General Plan and the 2025 Plan for Prosperity, as well as strong community support for additional local medical care facilities found in local public survey efforts. The applicant also demonstrates that mobile medical units function as integrated clinical facilities rather than short-term or event-based uses. Noting this, staff finds that the regulating long-term mobile medical units solely through the temporary use permitting framework may not be appropriate for operations intended to function as ongoing component of patient care. Staff notes that mobile medical units may present aesthetic considerations. As such, units do not necessarily reflect the architectural standards applied to permanent medical facilities. Under existing code, hospitals and clinics are permanent uses subject to extensive design review. Mobile medical units, often exceeding 30 feet in length, would otherwise be subject to architectural review standards if they were actual structures on a property. This, in addition to other specific site concerns, supports the need for a more discretionary review process than you would see with a temporary use application. Okay. Consistent with practices previously established in other jurisdictions, staff finds that temporary use approval is best suited to addressing duration, scheduling, and site logistics, while zoning approval mechanisms are more appropriate for evaluating land use compatibility, site context, and operational conditions. The 3 recommended text amendments to code to establish a clear and flexible regulatory framework that allows mobile medical units to operate on a temporary basis where appropriate, while ensuring that the longer and recurring operations are reviewed in accordance with applicable zoning district standards and discretionary approval requirements. Okay. Code text changes proposed include establishing a formal definition of mobile medical units, listing mobile medical units as an authorized type of temporary use via the temporary use permitting process, and listing mobile medical units on the city's matrix of use permissions by zoning district, with it being authorized longer term only in circumstances of an ascertained conditional use permit as an accessory to an existing hospital, animal hospital, or licensed healthcare institution. On balance, staff finds that the proposal can be made consistent with the VISTA 2030 goals and strategies by providing a proportional zoning-based regulatory conditional use permit framework for mobile medical units that supports access to medical services while maintaining compatibility with surrounding land uses. Staff, in concurrence with the Planning and Zoning Commission and the will of the applicant, recommend a motion to move the text amendment forward via the 30-day public record period pending ordinance adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Thank you, sir. And we look forward to Representative coming on Thursday.
Take care.
We have a call to the public, and then we have comments from the council. On tonight,
Mr. Mayor?
sir.
I just want to recognize one thing. Although
sir.
the item is on consent, Mr. Gene Sanders' appointment to the Employee Benefit Trust. Mr. Sanders is in the audience, and he's, of course, a retired former Director of Administrative Services and longtime HR manager for the city. So
Thank you.
and he will be an excellent choice for that.
Good to see you, Mr. Sanders. Always good to see you. And for tonight, we have presentation of flock cameras in accordance with City Code Section 30.19. And this is being noticed for public comment as well. So tonight, give you some parameters, our expectations. We expect it to be more than an hour and a half. We can extend agreements of the dais. We can extend for an additional hour if needed. So 2.5 hours if needed. That's our expectations. And for our call to the publics, know that we cannot respond back to you. We cannot converse with you. You can speak to us. Today we have our own great the sheriff of this great county, Cochise County, Sheriff Mark Daniels, who is my great friend. Always good to see him. And sir, if you would like to come address us after you sit down, we have our own chief of police, my great friend as well, come before us with his presentation. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Too kind. Mayor, council, staff, and the citizens that have attended today, thank you and for this opportunity to speak on behalf of not so much Flock, but what is the Cochise County Sheriff's Office doing in reference to our LPRs, our license plate readers. This has been a long-standing tool for the Cochise County Sheriff's Office. As we can remember over the last several years with some of the high-speed chases we had here that prevented so many people that were coming here that were driving stolen vehicles, that were involved in previous acts of violence here in the county and beyond. They were involved in a pursuit with us. Whatever the case may be, it stopped a lot of things from getting worse as we saw them coming into our communities into Cochise County. As a result of working with our Board of Supervisors, my team, and the Board of Supervisors have come to an informal, because it hasn't been formalized, but informal agreement that currently we use a different product. We don't use Flock. We were moving to Flock. I'll just say that until some of this brought to our attention of some of the perceptions, thoughts. I'm not going to speak on the facts of it because I'm not a fact speaker when it comes to Flock. But I will say this, our agreement that the system we use, we're going to, looks like continue to use it. We're going to look at a couple more products, but we're going to continue to use that's a crime fighting tool, and that's what this is. Anything we have in law enforcement, I'll just share this counsel to the citizens in the back, anything we use is under a trusted guidance that we're going to do it right, that we're not going to violate tools we have. If we did that, we also lose the trust of the public, and that's something we take very serious to all of us here. I've worked with Chief Heiser and all the chiefs. We had a meeting last week to discuss cameras. That was a topic of discussion. This boils down to a choice, kind of like if you want to buy a Dodge, Chevy, Toyota, or a Ford. I'm a Chevy guy. I'll just throw that out there. But it really does. It boils down to choice, and based on what your city's comfortable with, and working within the citizens of your community. So at this time, we're not going to go with Flock. I'll just tell you right now, based on the county system government, where this is a financial contractual. Our board has the contractual oversight on that. I don't. I have public safety. Not they said, hey, we're not going to let you have LPRs at all, then I would stand up on my authority. But in this case, we got an agreement, and I just want to make sure you all heard that from me personally. I will also say this as some background. I spoke with the Arizona sheriffs about Flock. What you're seeing in this community, a lot of them use it without a problem. I found no problems. Let me just say that somebody's been violated by Flock. Not in Arizona. I haven't gone beyond the state of Arizona or the proper of Arizona. But the concerns that you're hearing tonight, I'm sure for some of the citizens that I've been told, I've heard about it too, those sheriffs are dealing with it. Some of them are, some aren't. Depends on what community they're serving. But I will say this, and I've said this before, we live in a world of video games. We're all actors in it. We're all animated actors in some ways. And the fact that in a public, this is a public thing. If this was a private, I stand up for the rights of the people every time as their elected sheriff. But in public settings, we had an accident last night, assisting the city of Sierra Vista. Chief Heiser and I were working on that, his team and my team and myself last night up to this morning. And but thanks to a video from a business that videotaped the whole accident. So we just got that this afternoon. I received that. So again, we live in a video game. There's not much you can do in society without having some kind of camera on you. It's how you apply those cameras to make sure they're not in violation of the rule of law, which I support 100%. Again, I will say this as I close out to you. It's a law enforcement tool that I think is very beneficial, and the endless success stories we could share, every police chief, every sheriff in this county, in this state, you'd be very proud of what that system does for it. Just like an iris scan or a fingerprint or the many tools that we have at our disposal. If we violate it, we lose that trust. And I don't know, I can't speak of a case on any of these cameras that we've violated. So y'all have a decision to make, and this is what the county's doing, but now you'll be faced to make that similar decision, whatever that may be. So I'll stand for questions if there are any questions. I thank you, Mayor, for letting me get up first. I coach high school soccer, and I got to practice at 3:30. I have priorities. Our problem's been solved at the county, but y'all, is there any questions for anybody here from me?
Any questions from the Dodge? Yes, sir.
Yes, Sheriff, is the Vigilant system that you're using, is it being also used by U.S. Border Patrol, and is it a subsidiary of Motorola?
Yeah, there's a connection with Motorola. It's also used being by the Department of Public Safety and the federal government.
Thank you.
So that's one of the reasons, and this is where, and I didn't hit on this, and maybe your chief can hit on this. Flock was a universal thing for everybody, all the cities and counties. That we got great partnerships with your chief and all the chiefs here. We work side by side to keep our communities and the quality of life sustained and safe. again, with our situation at the county, we drifted away from Flock. For like a reason I've already explained. So, but we're going to continue doing what we need to do to keep our community safe and keeping the bad guys in check.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for me?
Other questions for Flock? No questions?
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. Let me just say this as I leave. Thank you all for the partnership we have with your Sheriff's Office, your Police Department, and you all here. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay. Our Chief of Police.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, and members of the community. Is this working?
Yes, sir.
Good. And I apologize, and I know I'm being streamed here. If I'll try and find a good space to stand where you're not having to track me. But for a matter like this, I hope you don't mind. Thank you for members of the community coming here, being engaged on this topic. It's a very important topic. I don't want to just talk to you, Mayor and Council. I want to talk to the community as well as I present. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth. I hope that's okay with you guys. I really appreciate
Easy,
it.
sir.
So we're going to use the hand mic here today. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for this opportunity to talk a little more about Flock. And I will tell you, I echo the chief's, I'm sorry, I'm chief. I echo the sheriff's sentiment on the usefulness of the tool. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the usefulness of the tool. I am not sold on any one company. We made it to a particular vendor following our procurement code and some stuff going on in the state and other communities in Cochise County. However, just know my stance on this as chief of police is I want to be able to use the tool for public safety. So we'll get into that. But Mayor, members of council, we have a handful of different presentations for you this evening that are going to touch on a number of questions that I've been seeing actually growing on social media that I think we have an obligation to answer. And then also our oversight, our use. How did we get here? I realize some of the members of council, actually, you were not on this road 2 years ago or a year ago. So I want to kind of bring you up to speed as to how we got here, what we're doing, clear the air. And one thing I wanted to do is have a member from Flock, the company, come here, be able to answer questions. And I don't know that really has really happened yet in Cochise County with the other municipalities that brought on Flock. I'm not sure if they did this, but this is something that I wanted to make sure occurred today. Having all that going on at once, the most important group of people here today, and I think we will all agree, are the members of the community who would like to come up and speak. So I want to make sure that I can go through these presentations as thoroughly as possible, but if we can hold the questions, and we'll have a good question and answer session at the end, because a lot of these presentations build on each other, and if we're going to do a question and then a slide and a question and a slide, I think we might have answers further on in some other slides. So if you can hang on to your questions toward the end, and I'll have some of my staff who are going to be giving some of this presentation. This is a staff-driven project. This is not something that Chief Heiser did alone. I have an amazing staff of lieutenants, commanders, sergeants who've been working on this project. It comes out of the ashes, so to speak, of 4 years ago when we were dealing with a lot of pursuits. And this was one of the things we wanted to close up. So I'm going to have my staff also present some information to you guys and some PowerPoints. And then the representative from Flock will go last. But I want to make sure we have plenty of time so members of our public can come and speak. So I will move forward. A little bit of project history on this. So mobile license plate readers are LPRs, license plate reader technology, actually was used by Sierra Vista Police Department in the 2012 to 2015 time range. I know that firsthand because I was a patrol lieutenant, and we used to use a LPR device fixed to the vehicle, the patrol vehicle. And you drove around, and it ran just a license plate, and you can put hit files in there if we're looking for stolen vehicles. And we managed all the data, secure data here. Our IT department actually helped us with that. What we were finding is it was very difficult to manage. And as a patrol lieutenant, I would have this car with this license plate reader on it, and the license plate reader wouldn't work. and we needed to have IT work on it, and then that car was down. So I was actually, it's ironic that we're talking about this today because I was the lieutenant who said, take it off the car. I need the patrol car more than I need the license plate reader. The technology was a little difficult. We were working in-house with our IT staff to try and work with license plate readers. And let's fast forward now to September 23. I want to talk about our real-time crime center just a little bit because that is actually kind of the jump-off point to where we got here today. We used to have a dispatch center in our own police station. And when we moved to CCOM, we had an empty dispatch center. We wanted to repurpose that space. And one of the things we wanted to do is find a real-time crime center model that we could install, because that's what's been going on in a lot of the bigger cities, where you can interface with things like surveillance cameras, have a larger surveillance footprint. And I'm saying it because there's no hiding that. If a police department's going to do that, you need to say that. And you need to say it loud and let the community understand. We're working on our surveillance posture in our community. So the Real-Time Crime Center was actually funded by the budget. It was actually in our O&M. It was a capital improvement project. And we had a vendor come in, design that real-time crime center so that we could interface with things like social media feeds, cameras at the parks, license plate readers, and also live stream things like body cam footage. And if we have a critical incident, set it up as a command post where we have all the information available in one location. So we finished that project in 2023, and again, we actually, some of you were on the dais when this happened. When we finished that project, we did a little tour of it. And I invited some of the mayor and council to come take a look at it. And I do know that was the first time for me as chief, because I was fairly new chief at the time, and during that tour, just talking about the capabilities and bringing in things like license plate readers into this. And then one of the things that I think is really important is, and I share this with the community, taking a couple whacks at community engagement on a couple of these topics. And it didn't seem like until recently when these cameras showed up, now I have an engaged community, and I absolutely embrace it and want to continue to work with it. But we did share some of this stuff outward because I think it's important as a police chief. When we actually finished our real-time crime center, we did an article, and in fact, the young man right here, Mark Hayes, did the article for us. We reached out to him, said, let's tell the community, what is a real-time crime center? What does it do? And it really was, a message in that article was to explain, as a police department, we want to expand our surveillance footprint in the community. It really is. And I think it's important that you always be outward and explain those things. One of those things also with the Real-Time Crime Center was looking at getting more technology, being able to interface with surveillance cameras that are in our community. And the license plate readers became actionable at this point. It became something that now we have a Real-Time Crime Center. Let's see if we can make this integrate with the license plate readers. Our first attempt at this was in our FY24 budget. We actually were approved for $20,000 for license plate readers. And what we realized is that that price tag wasn't going to get us it. So we didn't buy them that year. We decided we're going to look for grant money. And the reason why is as we were doing the research, it's a recurring cost. You have monitoring. It's like anything software related, you have annual costs. So we realized a one-time fixed cost isn't what's going to do this for us. We need to look at grant funding. So in FY24, we actually passed on bringing in license plate readers. FY25 budget, we budgeted in our grant budget to try and get license plate readers brought into the community through the local border security grant. And then in February 27th, 2025, the local border security grant approved by council, which included a brief on the LPR technology during the presentation. And let me just talk a little bit about that. So we're literally on the 1-year mark of when I first presented to council that we have a grant, and I'm asking for approval on, and it involved 3 things: a drone, a canine, and license plate readers. And when we talked about the license plate readers, I knew this was a topic that really needed to hit on, because our history in Sierra Vista is we used to have Redflex cameras, and there's some members of our community who are intimately aware of the Redflex camera system. Through an initiative, our citizens voted to get rid of them. And so I need to make sure that you guys are fully aware that this is not an attempt to circumvent that in any way. We're not going to use license plate readers for something like civil traffic violations, red light runners. We can't do that, and that is not the intent here. So when I presented this grant to you, Mayor and members of council, a year ago, we talked about not only ensuring that we're not going to use it for that, but I talked to you about, and I used the example of the blue hatchback. I don't know if you remember that. I kind of felt bad because by the time we were done with that presentation, I thought anybody driving a blue hatchback probably felt like they're being targeted. And so, but with the example behind that was to talk about the vehicle fingerprint identity and that technology. And that technology is the AI portion of a lot of these LPR systems. And that technology looks at the exterior features of a vehicle besides just a license plate. And I will tell you why, because a lot of times in law enforcement, we're looking for a vehicle, but we don't have a license plate. We are looking for a blue hatchback that has certain damage, certain blemishes on the exterior. And so that searchable function, which is an AI-based function, by the way, is one of the things that a lot of these platforms are offering. And I shared that with you as that's kind of what we want to move to, a platform that does something like that. So if I have a suspect vehicle we're looking for, and I'm going to use extreme examples, but they actually tend to relate to real situations that you're going to hear about later. Let's say, for example, we're investigating a possible homicide, and we're looking for a white SUV with very specific paint pattern on it that's worn down. We can actually put that search function in and look for it. If we can't find it, get the license plate, we may have a lead. Now, there's a lot behind all this.
That instead of the license plate.
Well, if we don't have it, though. But we'll get to the question and answer. Thank you. Yeah. So March 4th, 2025, we did there was an article on the approval of this grant. And I was actually specifically, and again, Mr. Hayes here actually did a very good job writing that article, big old picture of license plate readers, they're coming to Sierra Vista. I was kind of using that as an opportunity to see where's our community engagement on this, and where are we at? Are we going to hear? Was I going to hear back from you guys? Was I going to hear back from members of the community? And I didn't hear anything. So I made the assumption that if by clearing the air, this is going to be used for in the same fashion as Redflex cameras, that maybe we've settled it. Maybe we're good with going forward with this.
That's so dirty and sneaky what you just said. That's
So,
so dirty and
ma'am,
sneaky.
can I finish? Can I finish, though, please?
The piece of work you just
Okay.
laid out.
So here's an example of the article that we posted.
Why are you playing to them? They've already been convinced. Why don't you talk to us? Aren't we the people you said you wanted to talk to?
If
Why are
you let me
playing to
finish.
them? Haven't they already been
Let me
convinced?
finish, please. So here's the article on the license plate readers that we posted a year ago about just they're coming to Sierra Vista. We had not identified a vendor though. So continued timeline. Procurement process ensued, and again later on we can circle back to questions on how did the procurement process ensue for Flock, and talk a little more about that. And then ADOT permitting came along to bring these into the community, which again was another timeline that kind of drove this out quite a ways. One thing I will tell you with Flock is there are 4 other communities here in Cochise County who are using Flock, and again, talking to those chiefs, it made its way into the community. Did not see a lot of community concern about it. Again, failure of mind to think that would be equivalent here in Sierra Vista. So cameras started coming online at the end of 2025, December 19th, 2025. This contract we have is for 16 cameras at a handful of locations, and we'll get into that. But just for clarification, this last iteration of the grant that I presented to council was not for more cameras. It was for years 2 and 3 of the monitoring. So again, and then a press release in 2026, I firmly believe that we need to let the community know where these are at. If you do some looking at what some other communities have done, for example, City of Tempe had made comments that they essentially thought for the safety of everybody, we weren't going to share where those are at. I just thought we need to let everybody know. So we actually have let everyone know where they're at. Continuing to work on just the education piece of this, what do they do, what do they don't do, and speaking more along the lines of what we plan to use them for in the police department. And even more specifically, our policies and procedures on using this technology, because there's a huge accountability piece to that. Okay, privacy guardrails, private versus citizen. I kind of want to talk a little bit about this because this is a challenge that's kind of facing us in the world of license plate readers. Private citizens can record in a public place. First Amendment protected, and that includes dash cams, and we get that a lot. We get citizens who see something go on a roadway, and they'll come and give us the dash cam. The other is they can live stream, too, to the internet. Government, on the other hand, LPR is used by government needs to be managed as secure data. We have an obligation as a government entity to manage this data as secure data. And more recently, there was an instance of a breach with some cameras that went live stream from Flock, and I believe our Flock representative could speak to that.
Ma'am,
We're not using them. Remember, that's what your said.
So
Ma'am.
police departments have policies restricting the use of LPRs.
You'll have your time
And
to talk.
Also, something I want to talk about in regards to the private versus public landscape that's an interesting thing is there's a lot that's in flux right now legally. So to give you an example, we have a lot of legal oversight right here for Sierra Vista Police Department with our city attorney, our Cochise County attorney, the attorney general, and the Department of Justice. So all of that is legal oversight for us. None of those I've just listed have yet said, hey, don't use Flock, don't use license plate readers. But there has been challenges, absolutely, legal challenges. And if that was to change the landscape, absolutely, we would need to change how we use this. Just want you to know that. And in addition to that, we have SB 1111, which is a state law that kind of brings up some guardrails for law enforcement, currently making its way through the state legislature. And when we talk about our policy and procedures, what we have done is written a policy and procedure that would keep us in compliance if that law was passed. And we'll talk about that. One thing I want to bring up that I realize is not common knowledge for the public is we actually, in law enforcement, we use a lot of third-party cloud-based storage already for criminal justice information. That actually is something, and the biggest example I'll give you is actually our body cam footage. It's through evidence.com. So when we have our body cams, it's a lot of data. We cannot manage that amount of data internally on secure servers here at the city of Sierra Vista. It actually is secured on cloud-based storage. Same thing with fingerprint arrest data. The state of Arizona has a contract with IDEMIA. It's also cloud-based. So when we make an arrest, a physical arrest, and we fingerprint somebody electronically, that's all transferred electronically. That's another example. And LPR data is another one. It's another one that's cloud-based. So the use of cloud-based storage for sensitive information, it's not new to us in law enforcement, and I don't know how common it's known to the community that does take place. Let's talk a little bit about the Cochise County LPR landscape. So Sierra Vista was kind of the void for a while, and that's one of the reasons why we continue to look at this. So we have Benson has Flock. Wilcox has Flock. Tombstone has Flock. Douglas has Flock. County is using Vigilant, as the sheriff just explained. Federal agencies here in our area, primarily Border Patrol, uses Vigilant. And Highway Patrol uses both Vigilant and Flock. I've actually spoken to Captain Chase, and primarily they use the Vigilant. They don't have a lot of license plate readers down here in Cochise County, by the way, but they use it as well. So one of the reasons why we move forward in still pursuing license plate readers in Sierra Vista is going to come back to what the sheriff touched upon, and that was those high-speed chases. That was one of the primary reasons we were going to pursue this technology still. And when you look at, there's a website called DFlock, and you can look that up on the website, and it'll show you where all the cameras are at. That's available to the public. So even human smuggling organizations looking at their smuggling routes, they can use that to determine which routes are they going to use to move northward. And then ADOT also has Flock. So one of the things I did before we started moving forward on going live with this project was talking to the chiefs that already use Flock. And you'll learn from our Flock representative, there are over 50 other agencies in Arizona that are using Flock. And so when I meet the chiefs once a year at the Chiefs Conference, that was one of the things I asked is, how is Flock working for you? And it's primarily, it is the #1 used company right now. There are other platforms out there. So, and again, I learned that they're very happy with the use of Flock. And things like data security concerns, stuff like that. Although more recently, probably in the last, within the last year, this has become a rapidly evolving topic, and specifically Flock. So what's Flock not used for? One is facial recognition. That continues to circulate. I just want the community to know I am not good with facial recognition being used. Okay, that is not something I was told that's being done, and I would not be good with that. The other is ascertaining a citizen's exact whereabouts anywhere within the city. I'm seeing that it's networkable, absolutely. We can connect with other agencies. It does, absolutely. Citizens have a concern that this is a surveillance network, and that's actually a true statement. It's a true statement. When you can connect to different agencies, it is. I don't know how we can surmise that somebody went to one very specific location off of this. So that's the part that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around, and that's actually one of the questions that maybe the Flock representative can help us with. And then sharing with private entities, because Flock is in the private sector. I am not good with sharing any of our data with the private entities. And so that's another one that we are not agreeing to. And then sharing with LE agencies outside the state of Arizona. So as we see legislation start to grow and develop on this, and I think we're going to see a lot of that actually in each state, I don't know what another state's laws are on this, but I do know what the state of Arizona laws are. So we are only going to share within the state of Arizona. And then also civil traffic and moving violation enforcement. Again, I cannot repeat this over and over. We will not be using it for that purpose. Okay, public safety benefits and uses. Let me talk a little bit about that. And the first one I want to talk about, and the one that was really driving this for us, was pursuits and high-speed pursuits that come through the city of Sierra Vista. Now, we went through a series of about 3 years where it was regular. And it actually shook our community in a number of ways. As the police chief, I was answering a lot of calls from parents. Should they be concerned about their kids driving to high school with these pursuits going on? I will tell you guys that high-speed pursuits, what we were seeing a variety. We were seeing people that were coming down from Las Vegas for easy money to pick up a load of people and smuggle them northward, and they didn't have a driver's license, or they had warrants. We saw unlicensed drivers. We saw a lot of high-speed, reckless driving going on. I don't like pursuits because they kill people. I just don't. How many of you were here in 2004? How many of you remember the Eastgate accident of 2004? I was personally involved in that one. It happened 20 feet from me. I will tell you, it was a horrible, tragic accident. That was a result of a high-speed pursuit with a load vehicle. 5 people were killed and 1 unborn child. I don't ever want to see that happen again in Sierra Vista. So we've moved into a different situation now with border security, but my experience in law enforcement in Cochise County over the years is that it fluctuates. We see surges. We see sometimes where it rises again, and we see sometimes where it subsides. And we just need to be prepared for the next surge. One of the things I want to do is I want the flock cameras to be the image of don't come here, don't smuggle through our town. Amber alerts, missing persons, again, another really useful use of those. We get a lot of those here in this community, and we're actually going to share some similar cases as real examples. Hit and run investigations. And then I want to bring up domestic violence. That's an interesting one. When police officers respond to a domestic violence call, there's a good number of times the offender has fled, has left. And it leaves the victim and the offender. We're going to need to do our investigation, and if there's probable cause for an arrest, go locate the offender. But when you think about when an officer leaves that house, we either have to get the victim into a shelter, or we have to work on safety planning with that victim because the offender is still at large. And I want my officers to be able to say, look, I just want to know, did this offender leave the city? Is it going to Bisbee or going to Benson? If that's so, we can call that agency and say, we know we got a license plate reader hit that they're northbound on 90 going toward Huachuca City. That's good to know, and maybe we can apprehend that offender quicker and give some peace of mind to the victim. So security posture for Fort Huachuca. Again, we are a very important neighbor to Fort Huachuca. Just not too long ago on New Year's Eve, I got a call from the garrison commander and the sheriff. There was a suspicious vehicle that was a threat to Fort Huachuca that we were on the lookout for. And we didn't have a license plate, but what we did have was a vehicle description and even possibly a ghost marking of some sort. And that's where that technology could help us. What we did, because we couldn't interface and locate that vehicle, is we ended up doing a lot of close patrols throughout that night and throughout that following week at certain locations that are adjacent to Fort Huachuca. Other criminal investigations, and then officer safety. The officer safety part of it, there's a benefit when, let's say, for example, Prescott Police Department is working a case, and they have an offender who left the house saying, I'm going to shoot it out when the cops find me. That's actually happens once a month in this state somewhere. Somebody says that, and there's a bolo, be on the lookout for somebody who says they're going to end it horribly with the cops. And we usually get an attempt to locate. But when we can find out very specific information that they came into our community, we can be on alert. We can realize this person is actually in our community. And that is a huge safety benefit. So what part of Flock uses AI? That's another important part of I think a lot of questions the community has had. Again, I told you I'm not good with facial recognition. That's not something we're going to use. I've been told it does not do that. But the vehicle fingerprint technology of looking for a vehicle when we don't have a license plate, but we know we have some attributes of the exterior features of a vehicle, is something that has AI baked into it. That's just something to know. Concerns of misuse and errors resulting in law enforcement action. So there are some nationwide examples of things that went bad with Flock data, absolutely. And if you look at a lot of those are not Flock-related issues. Those are agencies misusing it. And so there are two separate issues we need to sort through. And there's an example of a high-risk stop of a family and some kids being pulled out of a car and put out on the hot pavement. Did Flock tell them to do that, or did the officers not verify information properly to make appropriate decisions in the field? A lot of this is actually on us as a police department, and that's why we're going to do our next presentation on the policies and the applications that we're required to follow. But I will tell you, there are a lot of good comments, and I like the community engagement. Just watching social media, there are some really good comments and recommendations just in the social media comments about, I got a recommendation for you, Chief, on a couple policy things. One of them was actually, instead of having an internal audit, how about an external, outside independent? I'm all for that, and that's just something we didn't think about. So there's room for even our own policies. The other is, again, just to give you an example, as you see our policy, we actually have officers must verify a hit through ACIC or NCIC. That's Arizona Criminal Information Center, or NCIC is the national one. So we have a lot of obligation ourselves before we act on this Flock information. And then, again, I just want to reiterate the most recent funding approval. It wasn't for more cameras. It was to fund years 2 and 3, which we haven't even gotten to yet at all. Lastly, citizen concerns. One of them is governmental overreach as a surveillance tool. And absolutely. The other is actually data security. And I will tell you, when Flock says you have the data for 30 days and it's deleted, my own experience is that that's something that worth questioning. Absolutely. Because I will tell you, even with our body cam footage and evidence.com, we have auto deletion set up for retention periods. And if one gets accidentally deleted, we can call them and say, is it recoverable? And sometimes it is recoverable. So those are legitimate concerns, legitimate things to ask. Flock company business model, that has come up recently. And then the distrust in data storage and or data collection practices. Those are things that the citizens are bringing up. And one of the things I want to sort through is the concern about the technology, period, the fact that they're here, or is it just the fact that it's Flock? And I think we need to separate that out a little bit if we can. And I'm really glad that we have members of our committee here that maybe will speak to that. But a path moving forward, I will tell you, the first stab at taking some community engagement on this didn't quite get this room the first time. And we didn't hit the right buttons. But now you guys are here and it's time to listen. And I have been doing a lot of engagement with Coffee with the Cop and some of the other weekend events where I'm sharing out the Sentinel article that has a little more about this. One of the things I'm hearing a variety of different concerns from the community on this, ranging from we don't like it, period. It's governmental overreach. To some people saying, hey, Chief, I see what you're trying to do here, but maybe one south of town and one north of town, and you need to have them at 99.2 and 7th and Fry. Those are the questions that are coming up. And then the other is the company. Just don't like the company. So I'm hearing all of it. Now, again, I think moving forward, we need to, we have options. We have options. And I think the city manager, I'm briefing the city manager on a number of options, and I'm open to whatever direction council gives after. Let's air out some of this stuff today. Let's listen to the member from Flock. Let's listen to the members of our community. Whatever direction council gives on this to the city manager, to me to direct, we'll proceed with. So with that, I'm going to move to the next presentation on the policy.
Thank you, Mayor and council members and citizens of the community. My purpose here is to go ahead and go through the policy, some of the important questions that have been asked by the community members, as well as some of the questions from the council members and stuff. So hopefully by going through this, we'll answer some of the questions that have been brought forward. So the purpose of the Sierra Vista Police Department policy is to give our personnel the direction and the guidelines for the capture, storage, and use of the digital data that's obtained through the use of the LPR system. And it's called an automated license plate reader. I'll reference it as LPR from this point forward. But the policy ensures...
You want me to put on a slideshow for you?
Oh, sorry about that. And can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see. All right. So the policy provides personnel the direction and guidelines. I kind of already went over that. So we get into the policy. The video recordings, captured images, digital photographs captured on the LPRs are for official law enforcement purposes only. There's no private agencies or private members that can access it or that can review it. We don't use it for personal use. It's for law enforcement purposes only and remains exclusive property of the Sierra Vista Police Department. The use of the personal imaging, transferring or storage devices is not allowed, so we can't use it on external storage devices for personal use. No member shall permit a citizen observer. For those of you that have done ride-alongs with our officers, that's what we're talking about as far as civilian observers or other non-department personnel cannot have access to locations, scenes, or systems to record video data or otherwise capture images without the appropriate bureau lieutenant's approval. No person shall obtain, reproduce, or transfer the above described data except by established evidence and document release protocols. Access to and review the video data will be limited to designated department members as indicated in this policy and by the authority of the chief of police or his designee. So some of the definitions on things that you'll hear about in this. So an LPR is a self-sustaining camera, cloud-based storage system device that uses cameras and computer technology to compare digital images to lists of known information of interest. The administrator or the LPR administrator is myself as the Special Operations Lieutenant and the Community Response Team Sergeant. An alert hit, which is considered the APL system, the LPR system that has a scan license plate number that is in the National Crime Information Center, NCIC, or other law enforcement database for a specific reason, including but not limited to being related to like a stolen vehicle, a wanted person, missing person, domestic violence or a domestic violation like a protective order, terrorist-related activity, Amber Alert, Silver Alert, Blue Alert, things of that nature. That's if we get an alert hit, it's already in one of those systems that's telling us to look for that number. So the hot list is the information that we put in for license plates, license plate numbers, and vehicle descriptors that are associated with the vehicle of interest. Compiled from one or more databases, included but not limited to, again, NCIC, ACIC, which is Arizona Criminal Information Center, the Motor Vehicle Department, local BOLOs are be on the lookout for, and then the Sierra Vista Police Department hot list is stuff that we put in. Vehicles of interest, which we talked about earlier, they are reported as either stolen, they display a stolen or fictitious license plate, they suspended or revoked registrations, vehicles associated or linked with wanted persons, or they're linked to either an Amber Alert, a Silver Alert, something of that nature. Vehicles entered in by law enforcement agencies as investigative targets, such as suspect interdiction, stolen property recover, like a stolen vehicle, special details, and then criminal investigations. So vehicle descriptors is information or characteristics that can be used to identify the vehicle, such as make, model, color, body style, bumper stickers, body damage. That's what we're looking for as far as vehicle descriptors. Personal identifiable information is any information that can be used to distinguish or trace an individual's identity. The flock cameras that we have do not do facial recognition. They do not provide personal identifiable information. They don't provide us a name, the date or place of date of birth, driver's license number, social security number, or any biometric records. So special details, those are non-traditional deployments or special operations usually conducted in conjunction with other local, state, or federal law enforcement agencies. That would be something like a Stone Garden, which we take part in. Evidence.com will serve as the secure viewing and storage repository for where the LPR data is stored and secured and preserved as evidence. So as a general overview, the technology allows for the automated detection of the license plates along with the vehicle make, model, color, unique identifiers through the Sierra Vista Police Department's LPR system. The technology is used to convert the data associated with the vehicle license plates and vehicle descriptors for law enforcement purposes only. The data is not personally identifiable information. We already talked about that. The license plate number identifies the specific vehicle, not the specific person. Although the license plate number may link or otherwise be associated with a person that maybe owns the vehicle, we can't see that unless there's another specific law enforcement search that has to be done. And so that's the only way that we can get that. The use of the LPR is restricted to the following. Operation and access to the LPR collected data shall be for official agency purposes only. Authorized department members shall not use or allow others to use the equipment or database records for any unauthorized purpose. The LPR data shall be accessible only through a login, password-protected system capable of documenting all access of information by the user, date and time of when they did the searches or when they accessed it. The LPR system will not allow a query of a license plate data without either putting in a case number or a identification number or a specific valid law enforcement purpose. The LPR may not be used in conjunction with any routine patrol operation or may be used in conjunction with routine patrol operations, special detail, or operation and criminal investigations. Something important to note that reasonable suspicion or probable cause is not required in order to use LPRs. So as far as the system usage, continued partial license plates and unique vehicle descriptions reported during major crimes should be entered into LPR system in an attempt to identify suspect vehicles. That's kind of what the chief was talking about earlier, where if we're working a crime and we want to see if all we have is a color of a vehicle and style, we can put that in to try to see if we can locate it. No member shall operate LPR equipment or access LPR data without first completing department-approved training that covers appropriate lawful usage of the LPR technology. The LPR system databases should be utilized for follow-up investigations. Measures can utilize the LPR data to assist in the identification of a suspect vehicle related to criminal activity. All sworn members shall have search access enabling them to search the database. Once they complete the training, then they're given the access to it. When members utilize the LPR data to assist in identification of a vehicle linked to criminal activity, the LPR data shall be downloaded from the LPR system and entered into evidence.com. LPR data is only available on the LPR system for 30 days. All data not extracted from the LPR database prior to 30 days from the date the image was taken is permanently deleted. Data related to or needed for investigations needs to be extracted from the LPR system and uploaded to evidence.com prior to that 30 days. So officers conducting an investigation or effecting an arrest based upon or aided by the LPR activation will ensure the following will be completed in accordance with Sierra Vista Police Department policies and procedures. So we're going to make sure we do a thorough investigation to include gathering information and collection of evidence from victims, witnesses, suspects, and other law enforcement agencies. We're going to process and complete the inventory of vehicles, inventory and custody of property, and seizure of all illegal contraband, and this all be documented on and impounded as evidence. And then all required paperwork and reports will be completed and forwarded to the appropriate agencies. So as far as like license plate reader notifications, so when we receive them, members may receive an LPR alert hit from either their patrol vehicle, LPR system. So the software is on their computers and their vehicles, but they also have it on their phone through a mobile application. And they can get hits from the department's fixed LPRs or from neighboring agencies, BOLOs related to their LPR alert hits. An alert hit alone shall not be the basis for a police action other than following the vehicle of interest. So before any law enforcement action can be taken because of the LPR alert hit, the officer should and has to verify the LPR alert hit through the NCI or ACIC. Once an alert is received, the officer should confirm that the observed license plate from the LPR system matches the license plate of the observed vehicle. If the alert hit is not from NCIC or ACIC, the officer shall confirm that the observed license plate from the LPR system matches the plate of the observed vehicle before taking any appropriate action. Members will not take any police action that restricts the freedom of an individual based solely on the LPR hit or alert unless it has been validated. Because the LPR alert may relate to a vehicle and may not relate to the person operating the vehicles, officers are reminded that they need to have reasonable suspicion or probable cause to make an enforcement like a traffic stop on that vehicle. Example would be if a vehicle was entered in the LPR system based on its association with a wanted individual, the officer should attempt to visually match the driver or occupant to the description of the wanted subject prior to making the stop on the vehicle, or they should have another legal basis for making that stop. So with the hot list, personnel will not enter any license plates into the Sierra Vista Police Department hot list unless the vehicle is currently wanted or suspected in criminal activity. And the hot list vehicles shall include the case number, the reason the vehicle is being put into the system, the requesting member's name, the requesting member's contact information, and any applicable instructions such as there's PC for the arrest, no PC for the arrest, only stop if they get PC to make a traffic stop, and then identify the occupants, do not stop, contact member, the alert hit, or RO known to carry a firearm, etc., or any other pertinent information. All hot list vehicles shall have an expiration date. When we put them in, we include that in there as well. So with data sharing and dissemination, this establishes the system administrator or this designee can approve access to our Flock system to members from other law enforcement agencies who are CJIS certified or approved and are using the information for legitimate law enforcement purposes. So as the chief said, we know what the laws are here in Arizona. We know what the requirements are in order to be able to access Arizona criminal justice system information and stuff. So when other agencies from within the state of Arizona, and currently there's 67 other agencies that we have a partnership with Flock that share information with us. We know what they're using it for. And we make sure that they understand what it's being used for and what our requirements are. Also, non-law enforcement requests for access to stored LPR data shall be processed in accordance with applicable law and the Sierra Vista Police Department policy and procedures. Approved access to the LPR data under these guidelines is permitted for legitimate law enforcement purposes only. And then retention of public records. The LPR data is saved for 30 days on the LPR cloud-based system or server. FlockSafetyandEvidence.com, after which which basically our cloud-based server is Flock, after which the data is automatically hard deleted. Data needed for criminal investigations shall be downloaded from the LPR database to evidence.com and shall be stored for the minimum period established by Department Records Retention Schedule and the state records laws, and thereafter shall be purged unless it has become evidence in a criminal or civil action or is subject to a lawful action to produce the records. And then the plate reader data browsing. So in summary, browsing audits will be completed at least once a calendar year and shall randomly select at least 10 browsing inquiries conducted by members during the preceding 12-month period and determine if each inquiry meets the requirements established in this policy. Once the audit has been completed, the findings will be documented on an internal memorandum to the chief of police, and then once that's signed, he has seen it and signs off on it, the memo shall be filed and retained in compliance with the established retention laws. And that's all that I have on that. And thank you very much, Mayor and members of the council.
Thank you, sir.
We'll go to the next presentation.
Which one is this one?
And we have Sergeant Essery and Commander Brownson.
Members of council and mayor, I'm Commander Sean Brownson here with Sierra Vista PD. To my left here, I got Detective Sergeant Essery. And we're going to discuss some things specific to some success we've had over the years using LPR technology. Kind of as the chief stated earlier, I wanted to reiterate that the LPR technology is here to stay. It's been here for a long time. We've utilized it for a long time. The network of LPR that already exists in the state of Arizona is pretty vast. The agencies that already have it were already listed, and we've worked with our law enforcement partners utilizing that technology for a long time and had a lot of case success. And this includes like serious major crimes, apprehension of murder suspects, serious drug smuggling and dealing going on in our area that comes down from Phoenix and Tucson into our community. We are a high-intensity drug trafficking corridor designated down here. We see a lot of very large amounts of drugs, whether people realize it or not, that come through our community and back down to our community. Detective Sergeant Essery can attest to a bunch of that. I can attest to it from when I worked narcotics and I worked in the Special Operations Bureau of our department, where Sergeant Esri currently works now. But I'm going to hand it over to Sergeant Esri for a moment to discuss some of the history.
Okay, so in 2025, 2026, we only had some sporadic use of LPR technology up until that point, and we were highly dependent on outside agencies, federal partners, city, state, for use of their LPRs whenever we had a case that expanded beyond our borders here. Even though we had some of these relationships, it's highly dependent upon who's working at the time, who you know, and being able to reach out and make these contacts. So it could not be timely to help solve some of these cases. We're going to go over some of these that we've used other agencies' LPRs, and then I think there's a couple in here that cover, since we got some of these LPRs in place, how they've helped us out so far.
Detective, can you speak up just a little bit?
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, the first one we're going to talk about, this was kind of the big one for me that it was really neat to see how well LPRs helped us out in solving this case, or at least apprehending the suspects in a timely manner. This one was in 2022 over on Magdalena Court, which is very off 7th Street over here. And this particular one, suspects had held and tortured a victim for a 2-day time period. At the end of this kidnapping, they stole the victim's vehicle and fled the area, headed for Dallas, Texas. Our initial belief is they would probably take the route that anybody would take from Service to Dallas, Texas, take I-10. But using LPRs from the state and federal partners, we were able to see that they took a route up through Grants, New Mexico. And when we happened to check these LPRs, they'd just crossed, and we were able to work with New Mexico State Police to quickly apprehend these guys after pursuit. So that was a big one for me. We had another fairly recent one. It was a homicide case in Tucson where we got a BOLO for a vehicle, and it hit a LPR in the Cochise County area, so it gave some officers with Service to Border Patrol, Bisbee PD, and Cochise County the opportunity to know generally where that vehicle was at. They were able to locate that vehicle, and having that advanced information of this vehicle was involved in a homicide and some of the circumstances surrounding it, it gave them the ability to have a plan. And although it had a fairly violent ending, I think it could have been a lot worse had they not had that advanced warning of that vehicle.
So this case specifically is quite important because this was involving a murder suspect out of Tucson that came back down into our area. When homicide is involved, and everybody's kind of seen the show, The First 48, time is of the essence when we're dealing with these situations. This woman was held against her will in the vehicle, and the LPR technology is assisting us to quickly find this vehicle and this person and this woman who's being held in this vehicle. And without the LPR technology, oftentimes we're slow to get the leads we need to react to a situation like that. And this is one that was pretty critical in the officers down in that area, down in Bisbee, to locate this vehicle and put a stop to the suspect who had the woman with him. So I just wanted to point that out.
This is a methamphetamine PCP tracking case, or capture trafficker case. This individual had already was on pretrial release for some methamphetamine sales cases and was told not to leave the state. We had information that they were going to California and believed that they may be bringing some methamphetamine back with them. Using some LPR technology, we were able to see when they started coming back and get the stop, and they were bringing methamphetamine into the area. This is another one. It's a little bit older, so LPR technology wasn't even as established then. But methamphetamine and methamphetamine trafficking into the area. This particular one, we didn't have an idea of, or we didn't know which vehicle they took specifically, but we had warrants to ping the cell phones. Cell phones showed a general time frame that they passed an LPR, and we were able to ID a vehicle using this information. Ultimately resulted in £1.5 pounds of methamphetamine seized and one individual, I think, had pending charges for burglaries in the area too.
And just to reiterate, it was stated before, when we're talking about surveillance networks and cameras that are giving us information off hot lists through electronic devices such as smartphones and such, officers set up surveillance. Detectives like Detective Sergeant Essery and his team, they go out and set up real-time surveillance to watch the vehicle once the hit happens and then see who's in the vehicle. Oftentimes, other types of reasonable suspicion and probable cause are established to make a stop. And oftentimes, there are long-term investigations where that vehicle, trafficking in methamphetamine or fentanyl or other dangerous substances are being investigated for long-term investigations. So this is commonly what the LPR system is used for. I just want to point that out.
This is another recent one. It was a domestic violence case where the offender was on probation. After the domestic violence offense, the officers had probable cause to arrest them, but they left the area. And we were able to see, by putting alerts on this vehicle, when the vehicle came back into the Cochise County Sierra Vista area, and able to get officers in the area that they were probably going to go to make the stop and arrest them. Another drug dealing, hand-to-hand transactions in Sierra Vista area eventually captured in 2024. Male suspect had been noted to travel to an area of Tucson and was believed he was picking up drugs from a Tucson area supplier. Suspect vehicles were noted by ALPR to be coming back into the Sierra Vista area. A traffic stop was made. Large quantity of meth and fentanyl. Kidnapping back in 2020 at 1497 East Fry Boulevard. This was an individual that was at a gas station in town, and a mother had gone into the store to purchase some items and left the kids in the vehicle briefly. He seized the opportunity, stealing the vehicle, and fled north towards Tucson. ALPR and Border Patrol helped us to apprehend this individual and get the two children safely.
So just to point out, the technology is in the county with the federal government and law enforcement, and we commonly, prior to us being able to get some of the LPR technology for our city, have relied on the ports of entry down Douglas and Naco. When we have somebody who's trying to escape our area due to a major crime such as a kidnapping, not having LPR in the void of Sierra Vista prior, we were relying upon them traveling to some distance to get that notice when we contact our federal law enforcement that, hey, they're about to hit the POE possibly, and then if manage to stop these people before they get into Mexico or past the North 90 checkpoint when Border Patrol is manning that spot. So we can't reiterate enough how critical and important it's been for us to have LPR within the city to have an idea of the time frame we're looking at and where they're at, where they last passed before they get past those other critical choke points, as we would call.
So this one, the address isn't correct. It got carried over from the last slide, but this is actually using some of our LPRs as they came into use for us. This was a...
We just want to make sure there's enough time.
Okay. This was a sex offender who had failed to register. One of our detectives had a probable cause to arrest him on additional charges as well. He had an idea where he was living, wasn't certain, but it was a property that was kind of hard to get to, and so we were considering having to use a SWAT team to deploy on this residence to arrest this offender. However, we were able to ID a vehicle that was associated with that address and put it as a hot list alert on it. That vehicle came into town a few times, but on the second time, we were able to positively ID this individual as being in the vehicle, which allowed us to get a traffic stop on this vehicle and apprehend him safely without having to deploy a SWAT team out to the residence. Yeah, the rest of it's just kind of a summary of what it was used for, but I think it's been covered.
Next, we're going to have up the Flock representative who joined us today is Lily Ho. She's going to come up and I'll pull up her presentation. As soon as she's done, I think we should roll into the questions.
Yes, sir.
And we could, whoever is most suited to answer the question between the staff or the Flock representative.
Roger that. Thank you, Chief.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, council members. My name is Lily Ho. It's a pleasure to be here. I am the Public Affairs Manager for Flock Safety for the Western region of the United States. I'll start off with kind of a little brief history about the company. We started in 2017. Our founder and CEO, he noticed an uptick of crime in his neighborhood, and he showed his police officers some of his door footage. They told him it wasn't very helpful. It didn't help produce any leads. And he's an engineer by trade and looked into license plate readers and found that this technology has been around since the 1970s. But the product wasn't scalable, it wasn't reliable, and it wasn't very, it wasn't inexpensive enough to be deployed fastly. So that's how Flock Safety came about with license plate readers. The first customers were HOAs. The first customer was his own HOA. And the company started selling license plate readers to HOAs before law enforcement agencies. We are now in over 6,000 communities across the United States. And we started selling to law enforcement agencies because this was a trend across the country where retention was an issue, recruitment was an issue, and retirement of police officers and law enforcement in general was an issue. And more agencies are leaning on technology to be a force multiplier and supplement the lack of staff. What are they? License plate readers, they are a device that sit on a public, typically a municipal pole, about to 12 to 14 feet high, and they face a public roadway. They are facing the rear of a vehicle, and they take pictures of the back of a vehicle. They do not take pictures of the front of the vehicle. They do not take pictures of people. If there are dogs or humans captured in the photo, they're incidental. And your law enforcement officers explained the hot lists and how they work and how they've been able to support investigations. 70% of crimes have a vehicle involved. And so it turns out that these license plate readers have been really, for many, many cities and counties, a game changer in both deterrence and as well as closing of cases. Aside from so this is an image that's very typical of what our cameras would capture. It captures the license plate, the vehicle, and make and model. Also special to our technology is our vehicle fingerprint. This is the part that has the AI component to it. Oftentimes in a situation, the victim may not recall the license plate number. Maybe they remember a partial plate number. Possibly none at all, but they can say they might know it was a red truck with a bike rack. So our technology using AI will be able to capture the characteristics of a vehicle and search for a vehicle with such characteristics. We are built with privacy in mind. Again, our images and data, they do not capture faces. There's no facial recognition on it. There's no personally identifiable information. The system is also not synced in with your DMV info or anything else, like the cameras that capture you for speeding and send you tickets right away. We're not connected to any of those databases. They are just standalone pieces. And your police officers would layer this technology on top of the other technology platforms that they would use. They would capture just the vehicle, so your officers don't even know who the car is registered to or where the person might live or who might be driving the vehicle. And despite our technology not having personal identifiable information on our data, we do treat the data as if it does, with a seriousness as if it does. It's stored on the AWS GovCloud servers. It has all the world-class certifications for data and cybersecurity with end-to-end encryption, FBI CJIS, SOC 2, NDA, and others. Our data, we are not in the business of selling data. We're just not. We do not sell data. Customers own their data, and you as the customer choose who you share your data with, apparently just within your own county and within your own region. we would never share your data without your ask to ask us to share that on your behalf. Also, that data is automatically deleted. Data sanitation is an important component of us maintaining these world-class cyber security certifications. This is the transparency portal. I'm actually not sure if you guys have this up. Yeah, you guys have the transparency portal. This is public facing, meant for stakeholders to understand the prohibited use cases for the license plates. Your policies are probably on it, and also who you guys share with. Despite our data being deleted automatically after 30 days, and that's our standard, the audit trail is a permanent record. So at any point, you can search for the audit trail that shows what the search was for, the search reason, as well as which officer searched it and when. Those are permanent records. This is a feature called that we implemented last year. It's the offense type dropdown. Previously, it was an open form where, for search reasons, law enforcement officers were able to kind of free form type in what the search reason was. We now have really like a set list that we've pulled from NEBRIS, and so these are offense types that can support with your auditing, so that you would understand what your officers were searching for, but also helps your department understand your data analysis. Again, we don't sell data. We don't share data. Our data, your data is yours. You choose who you share with. There's some misinformation out there about backdoor access to Flock. There is no backdoor. It doesn't exist. You do, again, choose who you share with. Time and time again, there's an understanding about whether this is infringing on constitutional rights. The license plates are public document meant to be displayed publicly on vehicles on public roadways. We've got about 60 case laws that support this, and the most recently there was a case in Norfolk, Virginia, where the court pretty much decided, consistent with the other case laws, that the license plates do not track the whole of a person's movements, nor does it provide an intimate window into where citizens drive, park, visit, linger, sleep, or patronize. For the number of cameras that you guys have in town, that is just really not what it could even be used for, even if you wanted it to be. Again, we discussed the PII. There is no PII on our data. This is just one platform layered on top of others that your law enforcement agencies and officers do have to use to do more investigation on the specific vehicle and who might be driving it. We're a trusted partner by multiple organizations that we've been really impactful in supporting. One is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They are also known as NCMEC. They run the Amber Alerts. With the Flock platform, we found hundreds of children and over 1,000 missing people. Just a couple of those cases that your sergeants discussed here. We've been endorsed by the NAACP chapter in Oakland. They feel strongly about this because license plates, police officers looking for a license plate helps reduce bias in policing. It removes any subjective judgment. Instead of looking for a person, your officers would be looking for a specific vehicle. And I've got some other case laws here of how this technology has been useful in the state of Arizona, but honestly, your officers did a terrific job describing the ones that you guys have had in town. So I'll take a pause here.
Yeah, I will open up for questions.
Great, open up for questions.
So we'll have the public come forth. First, is that all right, Chief?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
First, we have Supervisor Frank Antonori is here. Sir. Good to see you. Supervisor of Cochise, one of the supervisors of Cochise County.
So I saw our sheriff, I was watching you guys literally online in my office in Bisbee, so unless you pull some video, you'll notice I got here actually quite quickly. So not incriminating myself here. I wanted to give the other perspective. The sheriff gave you the perspective from the sheriff's office. I wanted to give you the perspective from the board. Am I not talking on the right microphone?
There you go, sir.
Good. I want to give you a perspective from the Board of Supervisors and our rationale. We approved a grant a couple months ago from DEMA, the Arizona Department of Emergency Management, to purchase flock cameras. And when the sheriff came to us at the time and his lieutenants briefed us, it was like a border security grant, it was for public safety, all this stuff. We didn't realize, and that was on me and the other two board members, we didn't read what was in that grant. It was only a few days later when a constituent reached out to me and spoke with me over the phone, and the two of us, while looking at the computer, read through the grant, and he told me what actually was in that grant, where I became aware that there was a referral to purchase flock cameras, a direct referral from the state to buy flock cameras as part of that grant. I then started doing research on that and came up with some interesting things. I got some case law from some lawsuits that were filed regarding flock cameras in about a dozen states. Some of those were successful, some of those were unsuccessful, but the evidence presented in them cases scared the bejesus out of me, for lack of a better term. For those of you who don't know, I just retired from Raytheon in August. I was the program director for emerging programs and advanced technology, and I worked with advanced intelligence, artificial intelligence, image processing, advanced image processing algorithms, particularly when it comes to image-seeking missiles technology. And I could tell you the technology that these guys are talking about is just a scratching of the surface of what's out there. And it is a scary world out there. So with my knowledge of what artificial and machine learning is able to do, artificial intelligence and machine learning, the capability of image processing, where you could take a single frame of just a frame grab, an image of one frame, and pull 30,000 points of data from that one frame is what I'm talking about here. And Flock AI, with all due respect to the lady that spoke earlier, is on a progressive growth, engineering growth, technology advancing pattern. The technical imperative, and I worked with engineers for 21 years, just like police officers, if they have the tool and they think it's going to make their life easier, they're going to use it. They're going to continue to strive to advance their ability to do their job as best as possible. I think the line needs to be drawn, however, as public servants and as elected officials and leaders, that we have to figure out where the line is between providing advanced capability and technology to our law enforcement officers and the individual liberties and freedom of our constituents comes in. And as Ben Franklin says, those that surrender individual liberty for the purposes of purchasing safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And I think we're at that point now with this technology where we draw the line. So when I met with the sheriff and his team, we talked about LPRs in general, and then we talked about LPRs with advanced artificial intelligence and the ability to do data mosaic correlation, where you lay different packets of data to come to a sort of a picture. And that's where Flock scared me with regard to this. There are other companies out there that can do LPRs, so all the stuff you guys said about LPR, I'm on board with that. Couldn't agree more. It is an effective law enforcement tool. My concern is with the data. When we tried, and I spoke with the lieutenants about, can we get Flock to amend certain aspects of the contract? For example, I wanted the county to own the cameras, and I wanted the county to own the servers, because who owns the servers owns the data. When they tell you it's your data, but it's stored on their servers, it's not your data. I'm just sorry. That's just the reality. So a company that can give you the cameras, where you own the cameras, and where you own the servers, you control the access to that data. You can do IGAs like we can do with you guys. If you want to access our stuff, you go to the sheriff, you provide him an affidavit for why you need to get in there, and he says, yep, you can have, chief, you can get in, look for this license plate, you can look for this, and that's fine. I have no heartburn with that, and I couldn't agree more. The problem is getting amendments to the contract with Flock is almost impossible, because Flock, to this point, from what I understand, does not like to adjust and modify the T's and C's, the terms and conditions of their contracts. They won't allow a third-party auditor to ensure that the data that they're gathering is only related specifically to what the previous speaker talked about, the car, make, model, and certain features. They're not allowing independent third-party entities to go see if they're collecting and storing other data that they may not be disclosing. They're not allowing third-party security personnel to review whether or not their security measures are adequate. And I can tell you that because I just found out that just last week a cyber group, these are, you can call them white hat hackers, for lack of a better term, hacked into the Flock system just last week. And as of Monday, they said they rechecked Monday, and their vulnerabilities that they discovered within the Flock system have, as far as they can tell, not been fixed, and they're still there. They've been hacked numerous times, and I'm not blaming Flock for that. When you become the sore thumb, every hacker on the planet starts trying to hack into your system now, and Flock has drawn that attention, which created some concern there. The other concern I had was Carpenter v. US. Carpenter v. US, I know everybody likes to say, well, that applied to cell phones. Oh, yes, Mayor.
Yes, Supervisor, we only have 5 minutes per person.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, your 5 minutes has concluded.
Okay, I just don't like using private public companies to circumvent Carpenter v. US and allow them to do persistent surveillance and then say, well, we're only surveilling when we need to get access. So that's the only other concern I have. But thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Supervisor.
Thank you, members. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good seeing you, Supervisor. Thank you, folks. So for the rest of the call to public, yes, you do have 5 minutes. You'll see a green light illuminated here. Red means your time has expired. The next person is Stephen Robles. Sir, good afternoon.
Thing working okay?
Yes,
awesome.
sir.
Hi there. I've been a Sierra Vista native for about 8 years now. I lived in Sierra Vista the first time. I live out in Hereford now. I have lots and lots of years of cybersecurity experience. Before my current role as a DoD contractor, I worked for a company called NCR. So I worked on everything you guys use to buy stuff, and including all the surveillance systems that look at you while you buy stuff. And I have a CISSP certification, which is the gold standard for cybersecurity, and 10 other cybersecurity certifications, 2 degrees, and almost have my 3rd degree in cybersecurity itself. So I've done a lot of research on these Flock cameras, and what that gentleman said over there is very true. If it is in their server, they can sell it however they want to. And they recently changed their terms of service so that members of the public coming up, and you can look at recordings in Prescott, you can look at recordings in Scottsdale, and those members of the community brought up how, hey, they can sell your data. Well, they changed their terms of service to make it where, hey, we're not going to sell your data, but they do reserve the right in their terms of service to have your data be their intellectual property to use however they want to, and they even say in there they can use it to train their AIs, they can use it for research purposes, they can share it with third parties, and you can go look it up yourself. It's all online, available for you to use. I'll also say that when it comes to crimes, yes, there should be some deterrence for crimes. As a community member, I agree with that, definitely. I myself have been guarded by Sierra Vista PD when I was an ATM technician, and they served honorably, protected me, and I value our men in blue and our women in blue as well. And I do not like these cameras, and if you do not vote to have them removed from the city, the citizens will do what we did last time, which is to vote them out by ballot. If you don't listen to us, if you don't listen to the people that you are elected to represent, we will go after the Flock cameras, and then we'll pay attention to how you don't listen to us in the future, and we will consider that in future elections. And I'm telling you, as someone who has been part of conservative groups, liberal groups, I myself am a registered independent, this is a nonpartisan issue. And I can pull together and collect people from all parties to come together and vote these cameras out. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And our next one is Mr. Robert Montgomery, sir. Sir, again, you have 5 minutes. Green light means illuminated.
Yes, sir.
Go time. Red means your time has expired.
Okay. Before I start and before my time starts, I'd like to make a request, a requirement, that this is the time for the citizens to speak, is it not?
Yes, sir.
And in the meantime, we have what I will call propaganda sent over our heads towards the room in opposition to our position. And if you could neutralize that at least, that'd be great.
Too easy, sir.
Thank you very much, Chief. Okay, so this short time, I am Robert Montgomery, by the way. And I've been here before, but not lately. And I have brought some souvenirs about what this gentleman has just said and everybody else in opposition. And just my notes, which are not very legible or organized. But there will be other meetings if need be about this, and we do stand in opposition to these, we call them spy cams. They don't belong here. They don't belong in anybody's life. There's no need for them. And I'm sorry to say all of the language that we just listened to is unnecessary. But Chief Heiser did mention, and others have mentioned, in the end, it is up to the public. It doesn't matter what is promoted here or there. And I have some demonstration of that because it was 12 years ago when the Red Flex system aggravated everybody in town. And I wanted to show you the results of that opposition. This is what 6,000 signatures looks like to rid the city of the Red Flex corrupt system, which was corrupt and illegal, as the CEO and executive officer of that company ended up in prison, being arrested by the FBI on 26 counts of bribery and electronic frauds, etc. And so it took 3.5 months for me, by myself, to acquire 6,000 signatures against the Red Flex. This yellow page is from people who I knew could not vote in the Sierra Vista elections, but they live around here in Hereford and Tombstone and elsewhere and come into town all the time. Jill Adams, great to see you today. Jill and I, at her direction, when these were turned in, for 3 days, vetted every single one of them and ended up qualifying comfortably for the ballot on something called Proposition 408 Bandicams. The bottom line with all of that argument is that it's true. The people will have the say here, whether it's done comfortably in this room or at great effort out in the streets of Sierra Vista. Meetings are already being organized. There are people planning to run as write-ins for various seats on this council. There are meetings will be held here and there and everywhere. And as the other gentleman mentioned, I have never seen a demographic, a cross-party demographic. All of these signatures represented every kind of party, non-party, every human being who could vote here. It was cross-party and it was nonpartisan. And it covered everybody from college professors and what I would call other elites to redneck construction workers, who I used to be one, you can probably tell, and everybody in between. Truck drivers, school teachers, who stood in line, double lines, to come and see me and sign a petition. And they were eager to do it. A certain chief at the time suggested to me in a friendly way that, Robert, it's the old people in town that are going to save us on these cameras because they really like them. And I said, I don't think so, Chief, because I've had them grab a pen out of my hand and carve their name into a clipboard. I've had them call me at their house crying because they couldn't afford the $250 ticket for turning right on a red light or buy food. And were just eager to save themselves. Choices to be made. Certain elected officials in this county, you will all know, I won't mention the name, somebody serving in the county recorder's office for 44 years, had 3 tickets on the Red Flex system, and she fought them. She said, I will fight those because they are corrupt as hell. And what do you know? They never prosecuted her. She never got a ticket. So it depends on who you are and who knows you. These flock camera systems, I'm told, Robert, those are not enforcement cameras. The Red Flex was enforcement, but these don't enforce. And that is actually a load of crap because they enforce even more than a Red Flex. Red Flex would send you a ticket in the mail, and you had to do what you did. every contact with police through the flock system will end up in the, probably in handcuffs, probably in jail, or the impounding of your vehicle, or some other punishment. And that is what the flock is for. Why have it otherwise? It is totally enforcement. And it has a terrible reputation. You mentioned the cities that have it now, but cities are getting rid of them every day. Flagstaff just dumped theirs, and who else was it? Sedona? I think it was Chandler, but I could be wrong on Chandler. And that's all in the last couple of months. And they continue to be kicked out of cities everywhere when the citizens understand what's going on. They usually are late to the game, but when they find out, then they do this, okay? And we could save a lot of trouble just by taking care of it in this room without having to go through the process. But I promise you, the process will happen if we are not satisfied. And protecting our freedoms, that's what it's about.
Thank you, Mr.
Thomas
Montgomery.
Jefferson would not approve of this.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Next call to the public is Miss Erin Darley. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Follow up. I will have, hi, my name is Erin. I will have nothing better than that to follow up with. That's a mic dropper. This mic is stationary. Yeah, my name is Erin. I'm an Arizona voter. I used to be in the military. I used to do surveillance. I could tell you all about surveillance. I was one of the watchers. And I can see what's going on here with the flock stuff. And I think any healthy-minded American can see what's going on here with the flock stuff. Y'all voted out red flex before my time. You voted it out because you didn't want traffic tickets. Now, I've lived in countries where cameras set up on the highway, they'll send you a 10 euro traffic ticket. That's nothing. That's nothing compared to what flock, the slippery slope that we're on right now with flock. The dog and pony show that has been rolled out with the 3 or 4 speakers that went ahead of us, the sheriff couldn't be bothered to stay and see the repercussions of the speech also, which tells me that he doesn't find this very important or that it is a lost cause. It's a foregone conclusion that we're just going to keep it. I do believe about 30 minutes ago we had another speaker in a blue shirt that said, oh, well, you know, the thing is, we can say all of this, but the license plate readers are here to stay. Okay, then why did you invite us here to talk if they're just here to stay? But then we had the last few speakers get up to tell you that eventually they're going to go away. And I really just want to reiterate what he said. You could do it now or you could do it later when stuff gets hard. While I have a soapbox for, as says the party light here attached to the mayor's seat, I just want to go over a few things that were said. It was mentioned that these flock cameras are protected by the First Amendment. Okay, so if our flock representative would like to come back up, at what point will this footage be used for a petition to the government of a redress of grievances? At what point are these cameras going to be used to remain free from religion or practice the religion of your choice? I didn't see that anywhere in Flock's mission statement. I don't see it anywhere in Flock's language. I haven't heard it in any of the language that we've heard. And I will also note that the public has been given a pittance of time as pertains to the agenda. The agenda stated that we would be here for about 2.5 hours on this prospect, on this issue. The Dog and Pony Show took 1.5 hours of that time. It's not enough time for the people to get up and tell you that they want their Fourth Amendment rights protected. This isn't a First Amendment right issue, obviously, for anyone in the room who still harbors that notion. This is a Fourth Amendment right issue. Someone also mentioned, one of our law enforcement personnel, they mentioned that probable cause isn't needed. Almost verbatim, I repeat his words. Probable cause isn't needed for this. Really? Because the last I checked, this was for the use of law and order, crimes, investigating crimes. So we're just going to set up a camera. We're going to say we don't need probable cause, but the pretension of the camera being there is probable cause because it is a criminal investigation device. And another issue that none of the Dog and Pony Show speakers covered was the terror presented by the centralization of all this information. It is the centralization of this information that terrifies us. A license plate reader located near an airport, on an underpass, in typical state-regulated areas. Yeah, I think we've gotten used to that too, but there's a lot to be said for the fact that that's been a part of the slippery slope and has brought us to this point where people are saying, oh, well, they're not going away. While the public, meanwhile, has been invited to tell them to go away. I find that very funny. But I digress. Anyway, I think it is the centralizing of power that is what horrifies people. It's a privately owned database. It can be linked to any number. It can be patched to any number of open source or any source of information where private individuals' information can be strung together and their privacy violated. I also wanted to just, in closing, because again, I came up here to sound off. I have not added much to this conversation. The three people who spoke before me, they give me hope. Those are the people who are doing things and shaking things up. I'm just here to state my grievances. Our Flock person here, who's been dispatched by this company to protect its investment in the area, to protect its nut, it said that, well, this isn't personally identifiable information. This isn't PII. I've heard this said several times today. Well, let's take a look at what PII is. It stands for personally identifiable information, and it refers to any information that can identify or trace an individual either directly or when paired with other information
your time has
from
expired.
security.org. Goodbye, Flock.
Next call to the public is Mr. Eric Fowler. Afternoon, sir. You have 5 minutes. Red means your time has expired.
All right. Hi, Mayor, council members. Thank you for your time. My name is Eric Fowler. I'm the chair of the Maricopa County Libertarian Party. I drove down from the valley today because what has happened in Sierra Vista is not unique. It's a pattern. I've watched this exact playbook run out in city after city across Arizona. And I'm here to make sure you hear what Flock Safety's representative will not tell you. The Flock playbook works like this. Step 1, police department finds a grant or discretionary funds. Step 2, the department signs a contract with Flock without specific council vote on the surveillance program. 3, the cameras go up before anybody can object. Step 4, the public finds out months later. Step 5, Flock sends a PR representative to give the council a presentation after the system is already operational to make it politically difficult to remove. I know this playbook because I've documented it across Arizona. In Scottsdale, I personally reviewed every council agenda in set of minutes and could not find a single mention of Flock or license plate reader. Yet over 60 cameras were deployed through what the city called standard procurement. In Goodyear, the council learned during a budget review that staff had already purchased and installed Flock cameras and connected it to FBI databases without their approval. In Surprise, 23 cameras operated for over a year before the council held its first discussion, and only because a single resident demanded it. In Sedona, the contract was buried inside of a bulk budget item labeled technology upgrades. In Flagstaff, 36 cameras were approved on a consent agenda with zero discussion. In Tempe, cameras were deployed without a council vote, and a council candidate publicly stated that the council never voted on it and never heard a hearing about the system. And here in Sierra Vista, the same playbook. On February 27th, 2025, this council voted on an agenda item that read, acceptance of the Arizona Department of Public Safety Local Border Support Grant. I then read the backup memo. The words Flock, surveillance, and ALPR appeared nowhere. License plate readers appeared exactly once as a line item in a 3-item equipment purchase sandwiched between a drone and a police canine. No citizens reading that agenda would know that this council was authorizing a citywide automated network that would scan 138,000 vehicles and connect to over 60 different agencies. 16 cameras went up, and tonight, a full year later, it is the first time the council is receiving a formal presentation. Arizona's open meeting laws requires that agenda items contain enough specifically reasonable information to inform the public. Bearing a persistent surveillance camera inside of a 3-line equipment list fails to meet that standard. It failed in Goodyear, it failed in Scottsdale, it failed in Payson, and it fails here. Now let's talk about where these cameras are. The majority of Sierra Vista's 16 cameras are concentrated along the Fry Boulevard commercial corridor, at Highway 90, at 7th Street, along the shopping districts. These are not checkpoints on smuggling routes. These are shopping destinations: Walmart, Safeway, the mall. Every parent driving to pick up groceries, every teenager going to grab lunch, every veteran heading to the VA, they're all being photographed, cataloged, and stored in a database accessible to over 60 law enforcement agencies. Your own SVPD policy states reasonable suspicion or probable cause is not required before using ALPR. Let that sink in. This system records everyone first and investigates later. This is the inversion of innocent until proven guilty. In America, we do not conduct mass surveillance on the entire population and then search the database when it's convenient. Arizona's Constitution, Article Section 8, no person shall be disturbed in his private affairs or home invaded without the authority of law. The persistent, warrantless tracking of 138,000 vehicles is a disturbance of private affairs, and the cameras are pointed at shopping centers, not cartel corridors. Flock's representative made several claims tonight. They will say the Norfolk case proves ALPRs are constitutional. It does not. The district court ruled for Norfolk on January 27th, but the Institute for Justice has confirmed that they are appealing to the Fourth Circuit. The judge himself wrote, as the number and capabilities of ALPR cameras expand, the constitutional balancing could conceivably tip the other way. There is no federal appellate precedent on ALPR constitutionality. A similar case is pending in the Seventh Circuit. A separate Norfolk judge already ruled that ALPR evidence requires a warrant. And as I mentioned, Arizona's own constitution protects against exactly this kind of intrusion. Sorry, I lost my place. This question is heading to the appeals courts and potentially the Supreme Court. It is not settled. They will say Flock has never been hacked. I think that's been mentioned. They will say that these cameras are secure. They are not. Independent researcher John Gaines published a white paper documenting 51 security vulnerabilities across Flock's product line and 22 officially assigned CVE numbers. They will also say the system is only a tool. Officers make decisions.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I've run out of time. But SB 1111 does not have any guardrails. Thank you so much.
Thank you for driving down. Our next call to the public is Miss Cynthia Romero.
She had to leave.
She had to leave. Thank you, sir. Next call to the public is Mr. Ryan Slauson. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. 5 minutes. Red, your time is expired.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. I'm here today to discuss a significant and growing liability regarding the proposed contract with Flock Safety. I want to focus on the legal and financial risks this poses to our city, risks that, if ignored, will result in litigation that the taxpayers will have to fund. My concern is not simply the responsible and effective use of ALPR technology, which we can control, but who has access to the data and their use of and interest in our data. Firstly, regarding state law. In Arizona, the operation of surveillance technology that collects, analyzes, and distributes data on individuals falls under the regulatory definition of private investigation. Flock Safety is not merely a hardware vendor. They are analyzing data, creating associations, and building intelligence products for resale. To do this commercially in Arizona, one needs a private investigator license. Flock does not hold such a license to operate a surveillance dragnet in our city, and their operational control of the data refutes any claim of it being a government-managed operation. Furthermore, the decision-making process within their system is a proprietary black box. The law requires that a licensed individual supervise investigative activities. However, the volume of data and the automated nature of Flock's alerts makes human supervision of these algorithmic decisions impossible. If a false alert leads to a violation of someone's civil rights, the city alone will be liable. Second, regarding constitutional law, in Carpenter v. U.S., the Supreme Court recognized the mosaic effect, the idea that the government cannot aggregate vast amounts of public data to track a person's movements without a warrant. By installing Flock cameras in our communities, we are building exactly that mosaic, and in conjunction with other data, enabling it. We are creating a warrantless searchable database of every resident's location history. If our police department uses this database without a warrant, every single resulting prosecution is vulnerable to being thrown out of court. We are inviting costly legal challenges that will bankrupt the city's legal defense fund and erode public trust in our police and allow violent criminals to go free, regardless of whether the current counts of cameras can create this mosaic at this time. More cameras can always be added, and other systems can be used in conjunction to create this mosaic effect. Third, regarding procurement and federal entanglement, that Flock is named specifically and assisted in the procurement grant smells of a conflict of interest. More concerning is the nature of the funding source, as it is well documented the federal agency involved is more than simply controversial. Regardless of one's views of their mission or its importance, their track record has been inflammatory and disruptive, and city police cooperation with them can cause permanent damage to public trust and cooperation with law enforcement that will do more damage to public safety than Flock provides. Though Flock claims that they do not directly share data with that agency, once that data is in the hands of Flock Safety, any participating police agency subject to federal requests through task force agreements or mutual aid pacts will provide that data regardless, including language in the grant proposal that allows for such cooperations. This data can flow to databases we do not control, and that we cannot secure, and that we cannot know of, and have no local control over how that data is used or what other AI systems are applied to that data once it leaves our jurisdiction. Further, we cannot foresee how that data might be misused in the future, even if we approve of its current use. Concerning the gift clause and data rights, this brings me to Arizona's constitutional gift clause. We are proposing to pay Flock Safety tens of thousands of dollars for a system, and in return, Flock will take the data generated for a government purpose, repackage it as a commercial product to sell that product back to us and other agencies, private organizations, and commercial entities. So we are paying them for the privilege of giving them a valuable asset, our community's data. The city is receiving no due consideration for this asset. This is not a fair bargain. This is a subsidy of a private company with public funds and public data. This is a textbook violation of the gift clause. Finally, a question of enforcement. We are signing a contract with a company that operates a closed system. We have no ability to audit who they sell the data to. We have no way to verify compliance with their own privacy policies. We are trusting them to make these decisions based on a marketing brochure. If they violate the contract, we lack the technical expertise and system access to prove it. We are handing over the keys to our city's privacy with no means of oversight. Notwithstanding that, a FOIA request can expose our movements and our locations to predators who wish to target us for criminal purposes. Council members, you are the stewards of our public resources and our constitutional rights. I remind you that the public removed the red light cameras through a ballot measure because we recognize them as an unaccountable and predatory system, and this is more intrusive. It tracks every resident every day and sells that information to anonymous third parties. Should you proceed with this contract, I remind you that the courts and the ballots are the option that we have before us, and we will use it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The public is Mr. Lucas Baird. Good afternoon, sir.
I'm going to go ahead and just start and use Flock's own words here for the points I want to make. The following quote is in the Flock Safety Plus Arizona Sierra Vista PD document on the public portal. Quote, by executing this order form, customer represents and warrants that it has read and agrees all of the terms and conditions contained in the terms of service located at https://www.flocksafety.com, terms and conditions, end quote. This was signed by Helen Lee on 5/1/25, showing acceptance of the terms. On February 15th of this year, I pulled up that link and found a few things that caused concern. In their definitions in the terms, quote, 1.3, definition of customer data. Now, this is something that we heard a lot earlier, customer data. Means the images, audio, and/or video segments made available to the customer through the web interface in connection with the Flock services, together with the metadata associated with that customer's use of the Flock services. Example, license plate number, timestamps of capture, and geospatial coordinates. For clarity, customer data does not include the underlying raw footage captured by the Flock hardware or any Flock IP as defined in section 1.9, end quote. It's important to note that Flock itself makes a distinction between the raw footage captured by Flock hardware and what is provided to the customer here. They are different things in this document. Whenever they say customer data, it does not include the raw footage from the camera. They clearly say it is different and proceed to point us towards the definition of Flock IP. So what does that mean? According to section 1.9, Flock IP is defined as the following. Quote, 1.9, Flock IP means the Flock services, the embedded software, and all intellectual property or proprietary information therein or otherwise provided to customer or authorized end users, including but not limited to Flock's technology, patents, trade secrets, trademarks, algorithms, data models, machine learning methods, documentation, and any modifications or improvements. For clarity, Flock IP also includes any derivative works, intermediate final outputs, analyses, reports, models, or other results generated or through the Flock services, except for the limited ability to access and download customer data within the applicable retention period. No rights are granted to download, extract, export, or otherwise create or retain copies of such derivative works, outputs, or other elements of the Flock IP. Which, unless I'm blind, which may be the case, but I believe that also includes the raw footage off the camera, not customer data, which is what the police are receiving. So my understanding is that this means that all of the intermediate or final output generated by Flock is Flock IP, meaning the raw footage. They can essentially do whatever they want with their own intellectual property. More concerning is that it doesn't even matter that they have made this distinction between raw footage and customer data, because in the following section, everything changes. Quote, 5.3, disclosure of customer data. Subject to and during the retention period, Flock may access, use, preserve, and or disclose customer data to law enforcement authorities, government officials, and or third parties, if legally required to do so, or if Flock has a good faith belief that such access, use, preservation, or disclosure is reasonably necessary to comply with a legal process to enforce this agreement or detect, prevent, or otherwise address security, privacy, fraud, or technical issues or emergency situations. So they can do anything they want with the raw footage as a company, as it's their IP. According to how this document is written, but in addition, they can disclose what they call customer data to any third party they want if they feel they have a good faith belief that any of those reasons are met. Those reasons are both extremely vague and concerning. They shouldn't be able to take footage from our city and just hand it to any third party or government official as they see fit. It's our city, not theirs. On the 16th of February, they changed their terms of service. Right after I became aware of this, they removed some of the things I just mentioned, but even now, buried in their definition of Flock IP, they still state that outputs of Flock services are their IP, which would include the raw footage. The change is concerning enough. The city has agreed to the terms that seemingly can change at any given time. Even if Flock says that they are not selling this data today, who is to say that they will not change the terms again later? You can't even access older versions of these terms on the...
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our last call to play is Mr. Patrick Mentraga. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. 오래간만입니다. 참 뵙겠습니다. Thank you for accepting my late entry. Y'all feeling good and beat up so far? Hang in there. It's almost done. All right. So it seems like there's two issues on the table today. One, ALPRs suck. Two, Flock is a horrible company that we should never be in business with and let them burn. Let's address the first one, or the second one, excuse me, Flock, and we'll table ALPRs for another day. All right. Flock is a horrible company. I think that we've addressed this before. I think that it's pretty clear. I think the tenor of this room, at least, and the town is we don't want to be in business with them. They sent a PR rep. They didn't send somebody in tech. They didn't send somebody that could explain the system. They didn't explain somebody that could get into the nitty gritty. They sent a PR rep to cheerlead the system and talk it up. All right. If you listen to your police officers, what they're saying is license plate readers are good. I think that they're infatuated with a shiny toy that helps them, which is nice. When I get a new knife or a new gun or a new car, I get infatuated. I love it. Councilman Landry lives in front of me. She sees my new dinosaurs out in my front yard. She knows how I get infatuated with these things. not the point. The point is, ALPRs might be cool, Flock is not. All right, let's listen to their own words. And I wish the detectives would pretend Flock was in an interrogation room and listen to what they actually say to you. Believe her. Believe her. She says that they can't do facial recognition, but they can do vehicle identification. How? How are they doing vehicle identification? It's machine learning AI. They're looking at the ridge of a fender. What does a computer care if it's a fender or an eyebrow? What's the difference? They're saying they only take a picture of the back of the car. How are they doing a vehicle fingerprint if they're only getting the back of a car? What are they fingerprinting? How are they getting the bike rack? How are they getting a brush guard? How are they getting this stuff to fingerprint the vehicle if it's only the back of a vehicle? Listen to her. Believe her. All right. I'm done with that. Just listen to everything she said and believe her. Read the website, read the terms of service, listen to what Flock tells you, believe them. Done with that part. Chief, I'm going to beat up on you a little bit. They've got policies. That's great. Policies don't matter. Police policies don't matter. They don't protect citizens. There's qualified immunity. Courts, time and again, police can break their own policies. They investigate them. They decide if it's broken or not. You can sue a police department. They broke their policies, blah, blah. The courts say qualified immunity. We hadn't ruled on it. And not even at the district court level. It has to be at the circuit court level or at the Supreme Court level. And that's the only way you're going to find any relief. They can have all the policies they want. They're not bound by them. They don't have to follow them. It's wonderful that they have them. They don't mean anything. The final one, pattern of life. I thought a lot about this sitting there. It's why I took so long to put up a thing. This really, I've got 7 years overseas, signals intelligence soldier, on live missions, doing pattern of life. I promise, give me this data, I can do pattern of life. Colonel McCaw, you can do pattern of life. Sergeant First Class Rodriguez, I know you're listening, you can do pattern of life. It's easy, it's trivial. We have a community of military intelligence professionals here. And if you try to tell them they can't take these cameras and run pattern of life off of them, they're going to tell you you're full of, yeah, so be sure when we're talking about this stuff, we're being honest. And when Flock tells us things, let's believe them. And let's take them at their word. And let's ditch this company. And then we'll come back next month and we'll argue about why automated license plate readers are bad in general. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, our constituents. We have heard from our public. Sir?
Mr. Mayor, the floor is open for you to ask questions of the vendor or the chief, and then, I probably have some recommendations.
Yes, sir. Are there any questions for the vendor or Chief Heiser?
By council or
By the council.
By the guys.
I do have some questions.
Yes, sir.
I actually had about a half dozen, but I'm gonna truncate it down because I know we've been here for a while and other members want to ask questions. So I'm gonna truncate it down to quick 3, and these are mainly geared towards the police. So whether it's the lieutenant or the chief, first one, does Vigilant, the other system that the county is using, does Vigilant use AI?
I can't speak for Vigilant. I'm not familiar with it.
Does anybody know in the police department whether Vigilant uses AI, or does Mr. Antonori?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It's able to use the image of the license plate and it uses AI to read the license plate number and use that to insert that number into the database and do a database search.
So just quickly, how is it different than Flock then? Is it the cybersecurity
we own the
record
cameras
better?
and we own the servers.
Okay,
that's the number one big difference right there. And the sheriff controls all the access.
Okay, now for the police chief.
Yes. Thank you.
You were talking about.
Stay up here, Mr. Antonori. All right.
You were talking about browsing audits. Let's say, for instance, that one of the officers fails a browsing audit. This officer is found to have been abusing the browsing function, using it for personal purposes. How are allegations of misuse handled?
Good question. They would undergo an internal affairs investigation, and we treat that the same as, believe it or not, what would apply is there's actually criminal law, computer tampering. So there could be a criminal investigation as well as internal affairs investigation, and if they use it for personal information, they're not going to work for me. And I'm going to send that case to AZ Post, have them decertified if they're using it for personal information.
So is it safe to say then if you found an officer in your department that was abusing an LPR system, that officer would be prosecuted and fired?
Very likely, yes.
Okay, last question. This grant that was just approved by the current, by us, this current council, is less than 30 days old. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And are we in some sort of 30-day window where this could be repurposed? This
Well,
portion of it?
Good question, Councilmember Myers. So we actually have more than that. We can, if let's say, for example, one of the options given to city manager and he directs me to look at other options. Can we repurpose that grant funding towards something else? Absolutely. We can approach the grantor and say we had change in course. Can we repurpose this? We have not paid that money toward Flock.
So we can repurpose without affecting the K-9 and the unmarked vehicles. We could look at repurposing because I know that the cameras are in place, but we were looking, this part of the grant was monitoring for years 2 and 3. We could repurpose that
That is correct.
without affecting the dog and the vehicles.
That is correct.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Antonori, Supervisor Antonori, sorry. So the county owns the cameras. Are you,
We don't own them yet.
okay,
So I want to be clear, I don't want to speak for the sheriff. The sheriff and his lieutenants are in the process of working with them, but the direction that we gave him was, we own the cameras, we own the servers, we control the data access, and there's not an outside entity that can access that data without us letting them.
And
So
you're-
unlike if the server was hosted somewhere else, they
Yes,
would
sir.
be able to control who gets in and gets out, so that was the concern.
and you're in a contract with Vigilant?
Not yet. No, we're getting there. So to the point that the chief said, we did the same thing. We goofed and approved a grant without knowing all the details in the grant. We set out to correct that mistake. And that correction was meeting with the sheriff and his team to ask the state to modify the language of the grant to eliminate the specificity for flock cameras and allow us to use that funding for another vendor. And the sheriff's office now has been working on language. It's going to be coming to the board, and then we're going to send that language back to the state and request, and hopefully they will, DEMA will amend the language to allow that to happen. If not, we are going to cancel that grant.
So are the cameras that are up right now, are they owned by Flock, or are they just a camera
We
that's
don't own them. The county does not have any flock cameras.
No, I mean our cameras.
I don't know about that. He's the guy to ask that.
So if we were to go with a different vendor, those cameras would be taken out.
That's correct.
Okay, got it.
Back to that question. The other platforms we've been researching, a lot of them follow the same model as Flock. Axon has products. The Vigilant one, where you buy the hardware and you have your own on-site storage, like Mr. Antonori had explained. Different cost factor, personnel behind it. So there's some other things we'd have to consider.
And is it possible to do this mission without 16 cameras in the city? I mean, that does seem a little excessive.
Yes, we absolutely. We just want to use it at strategic locations, and if that we got to scale that down, absolutely.
Obviously, we want to cover inbound and outbound at the choke points at 92 and 90, and maybe coming, going east and west and going north and south. But 16 cameras in the city does seem a little excessive.
So we could absolutely
More than
scale that
excessive.
down to just a couple of the outlying areas of the community. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So just to reiterate on what Councilman Myers said, we still have time to pull back from Flock. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, Lucas, can you see me afterwards? Yeah, absolutely. And then, Ms. Ho, I had a question about the 100% owned by the customer.
Yes, sir.
So we understand 100% owned by the customer. So what is the joint use language in the terms and conditions?
I'm not sure exactly what you're looking at, but my guess is that that's how we are sharing your data with. You are choosing to share your data, so to share it with other agencies.
So we can own, or the city can own 100% of the data, and you can jointly own 100% of the data, correct?
No.
That's what joint use IP is.
No, you would be. You're choosing to share that data.
So the terms and conditions, I'm going to read in a little bit probably. It's a question I'd ask for this from the city staff, so I can read this very specific piece to it.
Is it 4.2?
I can't remember which slide it was. What do you mean 4.2?
That's a area within our terms and our
No,
master.
I have not read the terms and conditions yet, but I plan to for this subject. So, okay, so what you're saying is Flock, once the data is given over, owns none and has no IP rights and no data rights?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
May I address why Flock as a company leases our cameras instead of allowing the customers to own it? Thank you. For one, our technology is meant to be shared for regional security. So the way that you would be sharing it with the sheriffs and vice versa, they have to be stored in a cloud service rather than on location here. Additionally, we lease our cameras so that we can maintain maintenance of it. It includes maintenance and ongoing repairs, any upgrades of software and hardware over time. It also covers the permitting and the cellular data. That's a monthly fee, as well as the cloud storage and software. So those are the reasons why we lease it versus having you own it directly, and why we have it stored on the AWS cloud server rather than having it stored here locally on site. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll go back to supervisor. Supervisor, so the vigilant cameras, are they? So you're going to lease them first, right?
No, we're gonna buy them, and part of it is a service contract to install and then do the maintenance on it. That'll be a second contract, which will be a cost to the county.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, like the Flock rep said, it's, I don't know which way you want to. Somebody's got to take care of the cameras. We don't have the technical expertise, so we need somebody to do that. So, but there is a portion of that would be a separate contract, one to buy the cameras, one to buy the servers, and then a second contract to maintain them.
So you don't have the cameras right now?
No, we don't. We're in the process. We'll identify some vendors. There will be an RFP put out by our procurement. Several companies obviously can respond to that RFP, and then they will go through a selection process and choose one, and then.
But it is the intent of the supervisors to have LPRs in the county?
Yeah. Again, I'm not against the technology when it's used in the after the fact mode. So if someone robs a bank and the bank's camera catches a car and a license plate number, and then you upload that into the system, and it tells every law enforcement agency, BOLO, basically, be on the lookout for that, and somebody drives by an LPR with that license plate, and they get a ping that this guy just drove through Tombstone, and they send somebody to get that guy, that's fine. Or Amber Alert, kids missing, this is the license plate mother or the kidnapper or something along those lines. It's the some of the stuff, and I don't want to get into all the YouTube videos and stuff. There's stuff out there that you see where there's been incidents and accidents of after the fact, especially that one guy outside, that police officer outside Denver that went and after that lady for being a porch pirate. That was probably the most egregious one I saw. But that was on the cop, not on Flock. He didn't do his homework. He just said, "Oh, blonde-haired lady with the green Rivian electric vehicle, she's guilty." And he literally told her that on her front porch. You can't come in and out of our town without, or take a breath of fresh air in our town without us knowing. And we saw you drive in, steal this package, and leave, when she did not. The only thing that saved her was the very video cameras on her vehicle that day that were able to show in court that she was nowhere near where the porch pirate incident occurred. But that's some of the scary stuff that's out there. And I don't want to say, so far our police officers and our sheriff's deputies have been pretty good about it. But in some of those cases, that was just lazy policing and lack of training that caused those incidents. It wasn't necessarily the camera. But that potential for abuse is out there. So that's the genuine concern. So having the sheriff and the chief be the custodian and of the access, where a deputy has to provide an affidavit for why he wants to get in there, then that's kind of the mechanism that we're going to use. I don't know if he's going to use the same thing, but we're going to require an affidavit, a sworn affidavit that I need access to get the data for this reason. It's got to be for a lawful purpose.
Got it, sir. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Robert wanted me to give you something about the language. Who's your lawyer?
He's not here.
This is my proposition 408. Passed into law by 75% of the voters here. There's 2 sentences. This law is still in effect in Sierra Vista, and I'll have a copy for you all to read it.
Thank you, sir.
It forbids any other cameras in the city limits. Would you like to read it?
I'll read it after, sir. Thank you. Just go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Faye.
Yes, sir.
This is for Chief, actually. Chief, so you're saying that we still have time to pull back from Flock within 30 days. What is the max where we cannot pull back?
So we actually can give a 30-day notice at any time pursuant to our contract. We just got to give a 30-day notice at any time.
Got it.
We do have some windows, I'm sharing with Chuck on contract ending and if that's easier or is it better? Are we not spending any more grant money? There's some other windows to consider on that, but at any given point, there's an inconvenience clause. We can give a 30-day notice.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Kimmer.
May I just speak really quickly?
Yes, sir.
I failed to mention something during my presentation. And this is very important moving forward. Next month, I'm going to present to you an IGA for a regional SWAT team with the Sheriff's Office. We are working very hard to be very close. It is a force multiplier. The more we work close with our Sheriff's Office, they are the most important partnership I have, is Cochise County Sheriff's Office, for local law enforcement. And we're going to be pursuing our regional SWAT team IGA here next month. Been working on that for 2 years. County was working toward Flock as well. We were tied to the hip. They took a change in course, obviously, and so I will tell you, I do not like being fractured from the county on this type of stuff. It is a concern for me. It's something that when that came out, they realized we do have to evaluate. We absolutely have to evaluate. My most important partnership right now is the Cochise County Sheriff's Office. What we're doing, working hand in hand and a lot of stuff, and we have plans for even more, and I'll share that with you in a strategic plan probably in April. But I neglected to share that with you in my presentation. It is a big deal. It is a big deal to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kimmer.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, I just want to point out that we can think 2 things at once, 3 things at once. We can have 100% confidence in the competence of our police department and the value to law enforcement that this technology provides. At the same time, we can everything the community is telling us and the threats to liberty. I'm a very libertarian-minded individual myself. And we could see all those at the very same time within the same thought process. So I don't see anybody as wrong on either side of this, and this is going to be a hard decision for us to make when we look at it. Some people are going to be looking at it from a moral perspective, ethical perspective. Others of us are going to be looking at it from electoral, political perspective as we move forward. And then just one more thing to add, Frank, the solution that the county's coming up with is going to be cost prohibitive. And compared to the dollars we already have in our grant, it's not going to be, we're not going to be able to follow that. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case. So there's going to have to be a whole lot more discussion of what we want to do. Are we going to pursue this? Are we not going to pursue this? Or are we going to seek other options?
The county would require more cameras than the city, and if we scaled back on the number of cameras that we had in the city, we may be able to go the route of vigilance.
Perhaps.
So that's a
I
possibility
can't throw anything out.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Landry.
I have some comments. Yeah, I appreciate everybody coming tonight to share your thoughts. We really appreciate that, and it's very valuable. I appreciate everybody who gave a presentation, and I like the comments that Councilmember Myers made. There were some things that I was wondering about too. After we had the call to the public, I just wanted to invite anybody that gave a presentation, if there's anything that you would like to add or anything that you want to respond to, if you can do that.
Right now?
Yeah. Anybody that gave presentations.
Right. Okay. She's talking about.
Thank you, Council Member. I really appreciate the opportunity. there was some discussion that I wanted to address. We do have a third-party auditor. They're called Baker Tilly, and they do audit all of our cybersecurity auditing certificates. And we do regularly pay for hackers to try to hack our system. It is pretty common to do that as a practice to ensure that there are no ongoing there are no vulnerabilities. Additionally, for around the AI, what is used, where the artificial intelligence is used, I mentioned it is specifically for the vehicle fingerprint. It is not meant, we do not have facial recognition as part, layered onto this platform. The AI, for example, it helps to keep updated what make and models of cars they evolve over years. And so the system helps to learn like the new 2027 of what a Toyota Camry looks like. When the Cybertruck first came out, the system didn't know what it was. So we had to train the system to understand what the Cybertruck was. Like we had to gather 1,000 images of a Cybertruck, Tesla Cybertruck, so that when something is typed in like a Tesla truck, it understands that it's a Cybertruck. And that's what the AI system is used for. While I'm up here, I'm happy to address anything else that you guys might have questions
So
about.
we have 5 minutes under Arizona statutes. We have to be out of here by 5:30. So we're gonna have our vice mayor,
It's whatever.
vice mayor, and then our city manager. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Ho. I don't have any questions for you. Yeah, thank you. I would like to see, before I make my comments, I just want to say I would like to see this council tonight, before we leave, make a consensus for the city manager in hopes that they explore alternatives to Flock. That is what I'd like to see. Because even with this SB 1111, I don't think it addresses all the concerns that were raised tonight. It looks like we're still in the infancy of the regulatory climate behind ALPRs, and I think our police department, I know, works so hard to earn the public trust. They haven't been live for a whole year. I don't know when they all went live, but it hasn't been a whole year. And that's another issue with Flock, that they took that long to install them. But I think introducing a company that that will compromise that that trust that's been earned, and lose some of the credibility with the public is concerning. So I'd rather, just on that basis alone, I'm interested in seeking a different company. Because I'm not against license plate readers, but I'm also in favor of scaling them back. When you look at the list, it might be unnecessary to have this many, and that could have been a Flock. I don't know whose idea it was. Maybe it was a Flock plan. But for all the issues already mentioned, and in the interest of saving time, I just want to get right to. I would like for us to come to a consensus tonight for the city manager.
City manager, sir.
Thank you, Mayor McCaw, members of the council. Based on the presentations, the public input, and your line of questioning tonight, I'm going to recommend to you that we pull back on the contract that you just approved here recently, and that we move to get out of the current contract extension. So that's step one. Step two, obviously, is the council needs to determine whether or not you want to pursue continuing with LPRs in the community. I'm kind of hearing a consensus maybe that you do, but on some sort of different scale. That will allow us some time to not only look at alternatives, but I think we have a window of opportunity here to work with the county and the sheriff to be more in sync with what they're doing as well. And that is going to take a few months of time to work out. So that would be my recommendation to you right now, is to pull out of the current one and then proceed with further discussion after that. And
Yes,
then
sir.
we can come up with some alternatives and bring that back to you in a public meeting.
Excellent, sir. Councilman Mark Rodriguez is on the line. Sir, you had something?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. First of all, I apologize for not being in person, but I've been here every minute listening to all the presentations. And I really appreciate it. I just want to start off real quick, and I appreciate PD Chief posting that Flock Transparency portal on our website. That actually covered a lot of this stuff beforehand, so people had a good read ahead like I did. So I really appreciate that very much. The success stories are great. I don't ever want to stop take the tool away from our local law enforcement that's been doing some great things, saving lives and catching people that need to be caught. You know, I don't ever want to stop that, but I do see the, you know, obviously the track record that this company has. Obviously, I was hoping to hear more about, you know, the encryption behind the data, how it's stored in the cloud, you know, things like that. But I didn't really get that from the presenter, and that's what I thought we were going to get a more technical representation. But that's okay. You know, and I also appreciate that we haven't had any issues with any Arizona law enforcement. A lot of the horror stories have been outside of our state. We have some great officers, you know, obviously being clear certified. They're doing what they need to do and using the data correctly. So hats off to them for doing that. And then my question I already had too, and somebody already covered it, but about, you know, owning the server and the timers, that's great. But I know that comes with some maintenance maintenance costs, storage costs, where they're going to be stored, all those things that we need to think about moving forward. If we do go with another option, and I would love to see, you know, Motorola, more about this Motorola Vigilant, what that looks like. And that's probably a whole other meeting in itself moving forward. And that's probably how we should approach it going forward this next time, is a lot more information up front about what we're getting into and what this entails, lessons learned and things like that. So that's kind of my sentiment going forward. Like I said, I don't want to take away this tool, but I don't also want data that's unsecured and with not a good explanation of how it's encrypted or not encrypted. And that's kind of where I'm at with it. So I appreciate that. And all the presenters, again, really appreciate everybody's input, the community being involved. When you, I know a lot of the people that presented today, and you see people from, you know, both sides of the political spectrum all agreeing on one thing, who would have thought it would be something like this? So it's good to see everybody in our community getting involved and speaking up, because that's truly democracy, and we definitely hear you. So thank you. That's all I have.
Last point. So is the dais consensus to proceed with city manager's recommendation?
Aye.
All right. How about you, Mark?
Can't vote.
Please don't vote.
No vote.
No vote. There's no vote. There's no vote. Please no vote. Please no vote. Yeah, it's just consensus of the dais. Thank you. We'll see you on Thursday.
We missed something on the agenda from